Good afternoon and welcome to ATN Society Watch. This is a program where we ventilate societal issues, give them aggregate attention with a view to prefer solutions that will benefit humanity. Well, first, the headlines. In Ogun State, headmaster arrested for allegedly sodomizing pupil. Economic hardship aids capital punishment call for copper sparks outrage. In child protection, government takes custody of boy assaulted by father. United Kingdom, UN judge convicted of modern slavery. Remember that we are open for advert placement, news and events coverage, personality, society and political interviews, product, service promotion and commercials. Remember to connect with us on all our ATN socials on Facebook and YouTube, Atlantic Television Network, on Instagram and TikTok, Atlantic TV Network 1. We are on Twitter on Atlantic TV Net. Watch us live on our website on www.atlanticnetwork.tv. We go on a quick break. When we get back, I will introduce the guests to you and we'll dive into this report. Please stay with us. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying with us. Here with me in the studio to dive into this critical discourse is Ike Chukwu C. Chukwu, Public Affairs Analyst. We're glad to have you join us today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Let's go right into the discourse. Ogun State government, in a decisive move against child abuse, has apprehended Asafa Afelaja, the headmaster of a private school in Enyi Ogbe, Igode near Ojigo, following allegations of sodomizing a female pupil. The swift arrest was prompted by concerned citizens who reported the disturbing incident to state authorities. Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Adijat Adeleye, confirmed the arrest in a statement emphasizing the government's unwavering commitment to safeguarding children. Our rescue team immediately intervened in Adamo, Ikorodu, a border community, following distressing report of a school headmaster physically assaulting a young female pupil. The perpetrator is now in police custody, and we are diligently providing the rescued child and her mother with the necessary support and attention, Adeleye stated. The government has assured the public that the victim is receiving comprehensive medical care and psychological support. The Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development has pledged to vigorously pursue justice for all survivors of abuse, working in close collaboration with law enforcement agencies to ensure swift and decisive action against perpetrators. We employ members of the public to remain vigilant and promptly report any instance of child abuse, domestic violence, and other forms of inhuman maltreatment. Adeleye urged, she reiterated the Prince Dapo Abiodun-led administration's unwavering stance against gender-based violence, child abuse, and all forms of domestic abuse, reinforcing the state's resolute commitment to protecting its vulnerable citizens. We've had the cases of several cases of abuse, in recent times. And what are your thoughts as regards the stance of Ogun State government on, such matters?
These cases of abuse don't seem to be in a hurry to go away.
Doesn't seem to be in a hurry.
Yeah, I mean, we keep having a repetition of it in diverse form. This is a case of sodomy. Now, from a headmaster of a school. I don't think anybody in his right thinking can fault the government so far in what they have done in picking up the headmaster and assuring the citizens, Nigerians, and people of Ogun State that justice would be done. Even mentioning the name, Ogijo is a place I'm relatively familiar with. These things drive home how close these things are to us. They are not far-fetched,
right?
But it leaves one wondering. For a headmaster, without doubt, I can confidently say he's an adult. And headmaster is nomenclature used for the head of a primary school. What would be the age of this child? What interests an adult in a child? It tells how sick some people can be up in their mind. Or could it be a case of, as we have seen in Nigeria, a case of rituals? Whoever keeps telling these people that some of these things add wealth to them.
Now, you rightly mentioned that the cases are becoming increasingly high. Why do you think that is?
It's part of the increasing moral decadence in society. Our society is in need to be revamped morally, not just the economic which will happen every time. There's a need for a moral rejiggling in our society. There is a need for, to think that this guy is a headmaster. He probably, for him to have become a headmaster, even though it's a private school that have a little bit different system of recruitment and promotion. But I would want to believe that having been a headmaster, he may have been in the school system for quite some years, no matter how few those years is. And all these years, you have had children under him.
Right.
Who knows how many victims he has left in his trail as he climbed the career ladder, as it were. It raises the question of the kind of people we entrust our system to. See, there is no doubting the fact that children must go to school.
Right.
There is no doubting the fact that people must be in one form of relationship or the other with different kind of people. But what should also not be in doubt is what criteria help us in determining who we entrust to be in charge of this relationship with student-teachers relationship, workers-boss relationship. Can we devise a means of ensuring that those we recruit, especially to handle minors, to be in charge of minors, are people of integrity, are not people of questionable character.
What about the people, if you assume that they're of, they don't have questionable character, but they are living in a pretense? How is that ascertained?
Yeah, that also leaves us to how do we unravel that? Because somebody pretending, maybe there's also a way to unravel it.
Because, the thing with pedophiles is they are usually patiently waiting for the right time to strike. They're usually not in a hurry, right? They have different mechanisms with which they use in grooming the children till the eventual blow. For the ones that are even, patient enough not to actually hands down rape somebody. Most of them they lead with fear, they lead with manipulation. Now, it makes it quite difficult, for someone to say this is the reason this person was not taken. What are the checks and balances as to knowing if this person is not pretending? What yardstick should be used to adjudge a person's behavior before they are put in a place of so much authority as regards being in charge of principal and controlling
this
minds?
Also calls for vigilance. I just say internal vigilance by everybody. I am sitting with you here. You should be vigilant about me. And this is not a case of being schizophrenic or unduly distrusting people, or maybe trying to stereotype a particular gender or a particular set of people. No, you see that you're vigilant shouldn't be about maybe you trust me or you don't trust me. It's just a state of mind we should have. Now, why I said vigilance is this: if we are a little bit more vigilant than we are, maybe we can notice an unusual pattern in a person's behavior.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we can notice an unhealthy discussion that usually comes from a particular person. Certain things could give people away. For example, even things like films they watch. What kind of films do they watch? What kind of things excite them? What is their response when certain topics come up for discussion?
Right.
These are things that, if we are vigilant, it may help expose some of these hidden attitude, as it were.
Very well. Now, given that many people are not even aware of these traits to look at before you can judge somebody that, okay, I feel like this person might be, this sort of person might be a pedophile or an abuser or whatever. Now, when we look at that, because the traits are not known to a lot of people.
Absolutely.
What do you think organizations like NOA, the National Orientation Agency, should do to make this a widespread discussion, maybe in schools, to parents, to teachers? Because then these little children spend most of this time in school, 5 days a week, right? And if people are not informed, are not well abreast with how to identify these traits when they see it, in a predator, and even in places of power, because most of the time when cases of abuse is reported, it is usually not far-fetched from a place of trust. Now, when I say from a place of trust, I'm talking about from either the family, the school,
somebody who does not really think
the church, or the religious background or whatever. Is usually structured around, it usually comes smoothly from those areas before you move it to external people. Now, how do you think these organizations, like the NOA, like I rightly mentioned, can help spread awareness to the tone that teachers, parents, and just even everybody is well aware with how to adjudge a person, given that the trait of an abuser usually precedes them? It's easy for you to say it, but if you don't know it, you cannot find it. So what patterns do you think the NOA and other organizations should use?
Beyond the NOA, like you said, other organizations, maybe even civil societies,
right.
I think there should be a constant education to people, adults and children, of certain behaviors that should be noted in people. Maybe even, sex education should be driven in such a way, not just to make you conscious of your sexuality and other, but also to make you know when there is a threat or a non-consensual behavior, especially for minors. Then specifically for teachers and all those that work around children,
right.
It is not enough to have that consciousness that, oh, I can't do this. What are other people around you doing. I think, like you rightly say, maybe not just the NOA, now maybe the ministries of education can also take it upon themselves to make teachers, have, for the good of society. Now, this is not to create a situation where people are unduly, monitored or reported, but, just let it be known that, okay, this is a behavior you should notice in your colleague as regards his relationship to either the student or other staff that become a red flag that calls for caution. If such things happen, maybe it may not even be the place of the child to note, because depending on how old the child is, but the adults around them can note that. I mean, a case of adults checking adult, I can note that this behavior towards this child or these children is a red flag. Or even if it is not exactly towards the children ab initio, but I notice that this trait this person has, if left unchecked, may likely lead to this, and this is not what we want in our system. So when you notice those red flags, it's time to alert the authorities, and then maybe more monitoring can be done to forestall situations like this.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. Economic hardship aids capital punishment call for copper sparks outrage. Presidential media aide Temitokpe Ajayi has come under fire for demanding the capital punishment of National Youth Service Corps member Ushi Raye Ugwamaye following her viral TikTok video criticizing the Tinubu's administration over inflation and economic hardship. Ugwamaye, currently serving in Lagos, expressed frustration over Nigeria's rising inflation, stating every single week prices keep increasing. I want to know, what is the government doing about it? She further described President Tinubu as a terrible leader. Ajayi, in a now deleted Facebook post, insisted that she had violated NYSC regulations and should face the strictest punishment. As backlash grew, he later clarified there is no death penalty under NYSC law. My comment was a metaphor referring to the highest form of punishment under the scheme, which is expulsion. Human rights lawyer Enebe Effiong countered Ajayi's stance, arguing that criticizing the president or government is not an offense under the NYSC Act or bylaws. Ugwamaye's statements are protected under Section 39 of the 1999 Constitution, which guarantees freedom of expression. Opposition leaders Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi have equally condemned the calls for punishment, with Obi stating, in a democracy, citizens must be allowed to express their grievances without fear of intimidation. Amnesty International also weighed in, warning against what it described as a dangerous pattern of silencing government critics. The controversy has ignited national debate on free speech, with many calling for the protection of citizens' rights to criticize government policies without fear of retribution. Raya's case has been on for a few days, and it's gone from a simple backlash to the government as regards venting her frustration, the price of things, young adults, having moved out of home for youth service. She was venting her frustrations online as regards, why do we have, the price of things going up every other morning we go to the market? Why is nobody doing anything about it? And metamorphosed into the NYSC going ahead to, sending her a note of wanting to delete posts, to them calling her for a meeting on Monday, and the presidential aide saying crimes like this might as well deserve the capital punishment. What are your thoughts on this report?
I think it's absolutely absurd, to put it kindly, for anybody to think that a criticism against the government or even any institution at that should call for capital punishment. He can't explain it away. Capital punishment only has one meaning everywhere in the world. That's death sentence, and that capital punishment is only reserved for capital offense. So the question is, when did criticizing the government become a capital offense?
Although he has come to say he meant expulsion.
No. He can't explain it away. What he should have rather done is to apologize for his overzealousness or his poor understanding and use of the English language. Every other explanation doesn't carry water. He used the term capital punishment. Capital punishment is not the same thing as expulsion. There is no saying, oh, capital punishment. Capital punishment does not mean the highest punishment as he wants to lead us to believe. Capital punishment means death punishment. You see, this is even one of the things we keep saying. Maybe if it were in some society, by now, even the government which he serves would have encouraged him to, rather than making these excuses and trying to redefine capital, the meaning of capital punishment, he should have rather apologized and possibly excuse himself from that government. It's a democratic government, or at least we pretend that it is. One of the key components of democracy is citizens' rights. First, the government, one of the key components is there is a legitimacy of opposition. And, you know, opposition thrives on the ingredients of criticism. Okay. Even beyond the formal opposition parties and other citizens, the ordinary citizens have the right to voice their opinion. To be sure, government naturally try to weigh people's opinion. That is what is called public opinion, to know how people feel about government policies. So this lady in question only vented her frustration, the criticism of the government, which is her government, she is a citizen of Nigeria, for crying out loud, and also she lives in Nigeria. So whatever policies the government make affect her directly, and she's a copper living on a 33,000 naira per month in a place like Lagos.
I was going to come.
I mean, if you ask me, Lagos and cities are not even the finest place for coppers to serve, given the cost of living in the cities in Nigeria.
Now, you've gone before me. We are talking about the 33,000 naira that coppers earn. You know that the minimum wage hasn't yet been effected for the coppers. The minimum wage, it is yet to be. They said they are yet to, you know, get the funds to effect the minimum wage, right? And in a country where the minimum wage at 70,000 is unable to, you know, purchase. I think a half bag of rice is about 50,000 just now.
Bag of rice?
Half.
Okay.
A half bag of rice, maybe 50,000. Maybe you might see 48,000, and someone is earning 33,000, right? Do you think it is well within her right to have expressed her frustration the way she did? Do you think this action by Raya should rather be applauded as opposed to, you know, everybody trying to shut her up?
Absolutely, it's within her right to criticize the government or any government at that in her country. Whether she should be applauded, you know, like they say, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, should be left to the ordinary citizen. But the least we expect that those that who don't want to applaud her is to call for a capital punishment against her. You may choose not to applaud her, but definitely it is wrong to call for a capital punishment. There are those who would want to applaud her because she has vented or egged what many people would want to say, maybe may not have the platform to say it. You and I buy from the market, you know the cost of things. You know there's nothing she said in that comment that is a lie, other than the fact that maybe her choice of language may not be the same language you would want to use. And by the way, this particular president of Nigeria, the incumbent now, had previously set a precedent in criticism of government. From all the presidents I can remember, he was a fanatical critic of former President Goodluck Jonathan. Perhaps the only president he didn't criticize is President Buhari. That is understandable because he contributed to Buhari coming into power and they're in the same party. He was a critic of President Jonathan. He was a critic of late President Yar'Adua, critics of Obasanjo, Abacha and Babangida, and rightly so too. He had a very good reason to criticize them, because if you ask me, over time leadership in Nigeria has not really lived up to expectation. What means that having lived that life of being a vocal critic of past government, why do we want to rewrite the law because he is the person in power? When did it become a capital punishment? If it was a capital punishment those times, probably he wouldn't even be here.
Right.
Now, so nobody should think of criticism as a capital punishment, and nobody should come and try to redefine capital punishment. Just admit it that you erred in your use of word. Just apologize to Nigerians and assure that copper that you meant no harm. And most importantly, let the government, if I were the government, what they should even come out with is that to make it clear that that particular statement does not represent the view of the government, to assure Nigerians that it is well within their right to make a criticism of the government, and that under no circumstances will this government threaten them with sanction, talk more of capital punishment.
Thank you so much. Also, now let's move a little bit towards the National Youth Service Corps, because when the story broke as regards the lady venting her frustrations, the first person or the first body that reached out to her, which she reported, was the NYSC, telling her to take the post down and inviting her to, you know, the office on Monday morning, 10 a.m. And when she got the door, I think she went with Sowore, followed her along, and that sitting didn't quite hold. I don't know the role of Sowore in all of this, if it was the reason the sitting didn't quite hold, because I mean he decided to tag along with Raya. Now, what are your thoughts as regards number one, when this viewpoint of this lady was shared? It wasn't shared with her putting on the uniform for the NYSC. She shared this opinion from a place of a normal citizen, sitting in her home or wherever it was she was, holding onto her phone and making a video with plain, you know, plain civilian clothing, right? Where does NYC come into this whole scuffle we currently have now?
You know, all these things are a result of overzealousness. Everybody wants to prove to Oga that I am working, not just that I'm working. Oga, I'm in support of you. Oga, I'm doing everything to ensure that nobody says nonsense about you. Like you rightly said, she spoke in her living room or wherever, at least in her privacy.
Right.
Nothing in the world would have told anybody, except to have a personal contact relationship with her. Nothing in the world would have told anybody that she is a youth copper, you know, that she is serving under the NYSC. So the NYSC authorities may have as well ignored her, because to the best of my knowledge, she didn't mention that she is a copper.
Right.
Yeah. So they would have ignored her.
So why do you think they asked her to apologize to the NYSC? Like
I said, it's in a bid to prove to Oga that we are doing everything to ensure that nobody... You remember that incident years ago, my Oga at the top?
Right.
So we have a system here, everybody's trying to please the Oga at the top, to prove to Oga at the top that that Oga, I'm doing everything to protect your image. Nobody can talk nonsense where I am. I think that's what I've given right to them. But what they don't know, or what they didn't know they did unintentionally, was to help to promote that, because it was actually their intervention that actually made it go more viral, that attracted the likes of Sowore and others commenting on it. They by themselves brought out the NYSC's angle into it, and by that it looked to many people as if there was a deliberate attempt on government part to shut criticism. So if you ask me, they would have just let it go, I mean, without even pretending they know the lady who was talking. At best, maybe on their CD they would have, you know, was it even necessary? Maybe to tell her, oh, please leave NYSC out of it. Maybe don't mention, if they are so desirous of pleasing Oga, don't mention that you are a copper, which she already didn't do.
Right, but,
anyway.
But where is this idea that you cannot criticize the government if you're a youth copper? You notice that the lawyer rightly said it's not part of the NYSC bylaw. But going through the internet on Twitter when the story broke, I saw a lot of people saying you cannot be a youth copper, you're employed by the government, and criticize the government. You know.
Who said if you're employed by the government you cannot criticize the government?
I mean, many Nigerians.
Yes, many Nigerians say it, but that is just a conversion. For all I know, partisan attachment here. Nothing that says a civil servant or a citizen should not criticize.
Do you think that
the government?
You know, coppers are employed by the government? Are they properties of the federal government?
Yes. Conventionally, at least when we are served, we are told that much, that, oh, you guys are properties of the government, to the extent that people sees you and respect you as a government property. However, that does not take away the core thing that you are first a citizen of Nigeria before you become a copper. So whatever law that guides the citizens of Nigeria or that protects the citizens of Nigeria protects you also as a copper. So it may be a mere convention that coppers should not be seen being very vocal about the government. But talking about being vocal of if that lady has by her post sang praises of the government, would these same NYS officials come out to condemn her for being vocal in support of the government? I doubt so.
One last question before we move to our next report. I want to gather your thoughts as regards many youth corps members travel away from home to go and serve the country in different places. Now, in recent times, some people have gotten kidnapped. Some people have, lots of kidnap cases have arisen. This lady made this post, and it took them a few minutes to actually find her, realize that she was in the youth service. Why do you think this effort is usually not being put in to finding, like you said, when you were serving, it seemed like coppers, like they were told, employed by the government, they belong to the government. Why isn't the same energy not being put in to find coppers that have been kidnapped and help them not get into, the sort of problems that coppers have gotten into in the last few years?
Well, to be fair to the NYSC, some of the challenges the coppers go through maybe beyond the NYSC officials to handle. For example, a copper traveling on the road across the country and is kidnapped, that may not be directly blamed on the NYSC because they don't own the security architecture to have provided security for their core members to and through the country, blamed on the NYSC. But to the question is that why is effort not made to identify these coppers? These NYSC officials are government employees. The effort they use in this, if they have perhaps use such effort to get government attention to some of the issues bedeviling the NYSC, maybe just maybe things would have been better off for the NYSC. Let me give you an example. Some of the camps around the nation now are not fit for human habitation. Now, if the government and the NYSC place where the coppers can stay. So I think it also generally the decadence in society that there is a misplaced priority. The NYSC, like other government institutions, and maybe to some extent Nigerians in general, need to get their priorities right. What is the priority of the NYSC? Is it shutting down core members or making that 1 year of service worthwhile?
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. Ogun State government has intervened to rescue a 4-year-old boy subjected to brutal physical assault by his father in Igboku, Ado-Odo, Ota local government area. The boy's plight was brought to public attention by human rights activist Adetu Onajobi, who shared the distressing video on Instagram showing the boy's visible injuries. The video depicted the young boy with extensive bruises on his back, stomach, and head, prompting immediate action from the Ogun State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development. Commissioner Adijat Adeleye confirmed that the child has been taken into protective custody where he is receiving comprehensive medical care and emotional support. Acting on reports from concerned individuals, our officials rescued a 4-year-old boy named withheld in Igbako, Ado-Odo, Ota local government area, who has been brutally assaulted by his father, Adeleye stated. She assured the public that the child is stable and responding well to medical treatment with ongoing tests to ensure his full recovery. The alleged perpetrator is now in police custody, and the government has pledged to pursue legal action to the fullest extent. Adeleye reaffirmed the ministry's commitment to protecting vulnerable individuals and its zero-tolerance policy for child abuse, emphasizing that justice will be served in this case. Now, usually we say, spare not the rod and spoil the child. What are your thoughts as regards this story and the abuse?
But this is a 4-year-old. What rod are we sparing and what child are we sparing? I mean, a 4-year-old can be corrected, but this is brutality and not...
is usually seemingly misconstrued in several households. That was the angle I was coming from as regards spare the rod and spoil the child. Many people will say, oh no, you must always spank, you must always beat. Usually a go-to statement. Somebody sees a child, probably acting out of order. you don't beat this child enough. It's usually the first response most people get, you know, people, and I'm talking about both learned people and, you know, people just trying to build themselves. Is usually the first reaction is, oh, this, you don't spank this person enough. What are your thoughts when you look at this?
You see, we should learn to differentiate brutality, spanking, and correction.
Okay.
When you beat a child or a person for correction, I think the outcome would be different from when it is outright brutality, even if you had intended it to be a disciplinary measure. But I ask again, what measure of discipline do you want to instill on a 4-year-old that had to lead to physical injury? A 4-year-old, to the best of my knowledge, is still having his thinking faculty, or rather his thinking faculty or ability is still being developed. So what would he would have done that you think that level of brutality would be to correct him? If you ask me, I don't think a 4-year-old can steal. Even if he takes something that does not belong to him, I don't think the word should be steal, because in my thinking, a 4-year-old may not know enough to steal. He may just have seen something that which all you need to do is correct him. Don't take something that belongs to you. Taking something that belongs to you is stealing, and you know, if you stealing with the consequences reeled out. And if you do it again, I'll do so to you. Then if it does it repeatedly again, maybe you can implement what you said you do. But certainly what you said you do shouldn't be brutality. Maybe if you take it again, I will stop you from watching cartoon for 2 days. Maybe if you do it again, I will spank you, you know, something like that. Maybe if you do it again, I'll deny you your snacks and all that. Even if you have to flog, but definitely once it goes to brutality as described here, it is no longer an act of discipline, it is something else.
Now, thank you so much for your contribution on that. While the government has gone a step further to, you know, claiming the child and adopting it, do you think this measure is going to, what do you think this measure is going to do in the grand scheme of things, as opposed, this is not an isolated incident, it's happening in many households? Do you think that taking children that are abused from their parents is going to pose a better way to go about it, as opposed to sensitizing parents so they will behave better and treat their children better?
Both should go. Sensitizing parents on the need to, you know, treat their children better. Then those who fail to imbibe those teachings, you can have those children taken away from them. And I don't think any right-thinking father wants his child, or even mother wants his child taken from him or her. But if it is proven that you can't take care of that child, maybe you're not in the right frame of mind, because I think that is even something that should be suggested. This father, what is his state of mind? Should he be subjected to a psychiatric test? Yes, to know his thinking. But whatever the case is, if it is proven that you have become a danger to that child, that child has become endangered under your custody, I think it is absolutely in order for the government to take that child away from such a parent or guardian. At least as long as it takes for that child should be away from them, as long as it takes for the parents to have a rethink and realize that they erred in their treatment, and maybe have a change of mind in their thinking that, oh, we would be a better parent going forward. Until that happens, I think it's in order to have that child taken from such a parent, because that child is also a citizen of the country and the government has a responsibility of protecting lives and property, including that of that child.
Thank you so much for your insight on that report. United Nations judge Lydia Mugambe has been found guilty of modern slavery charges in the United Kingdom, including forcing a young woman to work as a slave. Mugambe, who also serves as a High Court judge in Uganda, exploited her position to prevent her victim from obtaining legitimate employment, forcing her into unpaid domestic servitude and childcare. The 49-year-old was convicted at Oxford Crown Court of multiple offences, including conspiring to breach UK immigration law, facilitating travel for exploitation, forcing someone to work, and conspiring to intimidate a witness. Prosecutors successfully argued that Mugabe took advantage of her status to control and exploit her victims. During her arrest, captured in footage released by Thames Valley Police, Mugabe expressed shock and claimed diplomatic immunity, stating, "I am a judge in my country. I even have immunity. I am not a criminal." She also asserted that the victim had asked to work for her, having previously worked at her home. The prosecution detailed how Mugabe, while studying for a law PhD at the University of Oxford, conspired with Ugandan Deputy High Commissioner John Leonard Magwawa to bring the young woman to the UK. They alleged a very dishonest trade-off where Magwawa arranged for the Ugandan High Commission to sponsor the woman's entry, and Mugabe would attempt to influence a judge presiding over legal action against Magwawa. Mugabe was also found guilty of attempting to coerce the victim into withdrawing her support for the prosecution and dropping the charges against her. She will be sentenced at Oxford Crown Court on May 2nd. The convict had those in power accountable. Right. I want to get your view on the full report, and I want to get your thoughts as regards how do we translate this into our current realities in Nigeria.
Okay, but this is a disgrace to Africa. Over time, Africa has been noted for having corrupt practices entrenched in her system. Now, this is not to say that Africa is the only place that is corrupt.
Okay.
Every part of the world, you have one form of corruption or the other. But it is particularly alarming in Africa over how these things are swept under the carpet. Maybe if this didn't happen in UK, this woman may have gotten away
with it.
And look at the high-profile person involved, a judge in her country, a United Nations judge. Good 18, the United Nations Secretary General has waved away her immunity. You see, diplomatic immunity, most people that hold diplomatic immunity are sensible enough to know that in spite of the fact that I have immunity, I won't be prosecuted against crime. They deliberately make an effort to do it. So their immunity is not usually a liberty to go against the law. Even though they may not be prosecuted. So it's quite unfortunate to see somebody who is taking advantage of her supposed immunity to perpetrate a crime no less than modern day slavery. And then look at the role of the country's High Commissioner. This also brings to question, when we select those that hold position of authority for us, what background check do we do? If a proper background check had been done, probably the authorities in Uganda would have known that this High Commission has a running case in a court. Then giving him this position, he may use this position to obstruct justice, or even if he doesn't use it, that it will be a disgrace to our country for our High Commissioner to be convicted. So until such crimes are discharged, such a person shouldn't have been appointed. Now look at, he's using that his current position to conspire for a crime to become. This is a man who should be protecting the image of his country, but because a judge is involved, because he wants to get off the hook of the crime for which he is being tried, so there is a negotiation. Now, okay, let me help you commit this crime, then you get me off the hook. And in all, what suffers? The ordinary Ugandan suffer, the image of the country suffers, and this poor lady was brought into
around the topic, as regards slavery. What do you think this lady would have done better with this whole situation and not earn herself all of this trouble?
Giving her position with the understanding of law and all those things, it goes to tell what you say in local parlance here, that somebody he goes school but school no go or something. like that. Apparently she have all the qualifications and maybe may have even given some fine judgment, but she is not a person of integrity, and it's a dangerous thing to have a judge who is not a person of integrity, because she is a likely pawn in the hands of would-be manipulators of the law, because she's not a person of integrity. The United Kingdom, who knows what they would have told the lady. Given her position, she probably was in a position to get a paid help, but maybe it's just in her habit to exploit the poor and take advantage of the poor. I mean, all the process of getting the lady into the UK, she would have gotten a help in the UK and save herself this pain. But maybe it's something, I don't know. What I want to say is not something I want to think of, that you know, maybe she derives some joy in exploiting people. And like you said, slavery is a thorny issue in Africa. But when does it get thorny? Is it when we talk about slavery as perpetrated in the between maybe the from the 18th century going back to the 15th century, also when slavery was happening, Africans were victims and the Europeans seems to be the